Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. And this is Soul Power from Daily News by Manly Palmer Hall, an article taken from Horizon, the Magazine of Useful and Intelligent Living, Volume 1, Number 2, September 1941. In contemplation of misfortune, we gain strength. Intelligent adjustment can be made to any state of world condition. Soul Power from Daily News. There are times when it is difficult to live the principles we believe. One of those times is now. Each day we gather up all that we can muster of common sense, detachment, and sound judgment, and resolve that this time we shall meet the dawn of the morrow with understanding and high purpose. Then comes the morning paper, a tightly folded little bundle of chaos, neatly tied together with a broad band of editorial policy. Woe is us. We will just take a little peek at the main headlines, so we cannot be accused of being unaware of world happenings. Rather discouraging. The English are advancing, the Germans are advancing, the Russians are advancing, the Italians are advancing. We will have to look lower in the smaller type to discover the direction in which they are advancing. Maybe the second page will be better. The maps ought to be more lucid. No. The enemy has taken Skuldug, and the Scurvians are retreating along lines A to X. Local news. Another murder. And somebody we never heard of is getting divorced. Let's try the ads. So our social standing is hazarded by not buying a new icebox. What's this about Tattletale Gray? How'd it be for dunking the newspaper in that kind of soap? Ah, at last the comics. Now we have found something really edifying. It's the only part of the newspaper that our disillusioned souls will accept with implicit confidence. Although there is, of course, probably some truth in the obituary notices. What about this fourth estate? What's to be believed about victories and defeats, air raids, and the sinking of ships? By no known means can we hope to extract the whole truth out of so much that is deliberately false. And yet that is no reason to hold, as 400 many people do, a blind prejudice against the press. World conditions are changing with almost incredible rapidity. Innumerable difficulties of censorship and distance have to be daily overcome. And on practically any item that trickles through is imposed the heavy hand of national policies and the designs of government leaderships. Some news errors are made, but looking at it fairly, the press, in its endeavors to interpret and convey news, is doing today the best job it has ever done. And aided by radio, a great intensification of contact has been provided between peoples great distances apart, with well-informed analysts to throw light on daily news high spots. What is missing are the guideposts to an intelligent thinking through. For without something in terms of standards of ethics or even normal attitudes toward mankind, there can be no clear path to the meaning of all that is going on. We recognize that world affairs are our affairs, but they are in a mess, which makes us realize that the person who permits himself to take the affairs of the world about him too seriously, who thinks about them too much, is sure to become ineffectual, discouraged in necessary acceptance that everything in life has lost proportion, all sense of ordinary meaning. But nothing is gained by ignoring world news. It is futile to attempt to wipe out of our consciousness the state of the world catastrophe. The same query is set up constantly by the defense mechanism in all minds of average individuals. Why ponder deeply, crisis after crisis, for which, so far as I am personally concerned, there are no solutional elements? Giving them too close attention means less daily capacity to meet my normal personal problems. There is justification for such an attitude. It can be backed up with sound argument. But it is an incomplete attitude. It overlooks the soul power to be gained in not ignoring the news. In contemplation of misfortune, we gain strength. If there is no attempt to escape the implications of realities, intelligent adjustment can be made to any state of world condition, no matter how dismal. It is philosophy's belief that all situations exist to be studied, to be defined, and then to be established in their relationship to principle. The problem with news, as with all things, is to find out why things have happened as they have, and to seek then the governing principle. We accept that the thing that has happened in the way it has happened is the right thing, then determine why. The steps in reasoning are applied in the full conviction that the universe is dominated and controlled by intelligence, which we back up with the honest belief that spiritual principles are at the root of living, not personalities. As a thought process, this is exactly opposite to platitudinous affirmation that despite appearances, everything is just jolly, which is exceedingly stupid. Emotionally akin to it, the saccharine affirmation that the world is filled with love. For whatever the love is that the world is filled with, it is not today being abundantly demonstrated in human relationships. The mission of philosophy is to seek truth, find law and find reason, without outraging common sense in denials of the obvious. Looking intelligently at our daily newspaper, we can see there the record of consequences to a civilization which man built up without an adequate philosophy of life. What we read are news accounts of what happens, inevitably, to ignorance. That is the first thing news means. As it brings before our eyes consequences monumental in misery and misfortune, we can know that they arise from lack of the essential knowledge that there is a law behind the game of life, and that we have to play it according to the rules. Daily news is the chronicle of what happens to those who ignore the law, who deny the law. It discloses for us the fundamental principle beneath world difficulties of this time and all other times, which is lack of adjustment between human institutions and universal law. Men have not built civilization according to the pattern of the place and space which it occupies. Space is ruled by motions, laws, and tides that are continually flowing through it. They are motions intrinsic and inherent. They require no sense of the personal in their administration. They are laws, absolute and inflexible. They are great enough to govern the motions of suns. They are small and gentle and intricate enough to control the dancing of atoms in space. They flow through every branch of human activity, exist in every department of human life, extending upward from man to space, and downward from man to the molecules, inflexible, absolute, and unchangeable. Man may work with them, and by applying what he discovers accomplish greatly, but if for any reason he works against them, he is destroyed, because man himself is but a tiny atom floating in the great mass of life. Governments founded without consideration of the principles of universal government will fall. Human ambitions that run contrary to divine purpose cannot survive. Human institutions have for thousands of years been set up in conflict with principle, in flagrantly ignoring the necessity of adjustment of human desires to the divine plan, which is universality. Nothing can survive which rotates or vibrates contrary to the universal pattern. And so, the very height and supreme pinnacle of wisdom is to know what the pattern is, and having discovered the nature of the pattern, to apply the knowledge to every institution man has built up, whether religion, politics or government, business, economics, art, science, literature, alike to industrial structures and all cultural achievement. Either we apply the law to the thing we are doing, or recognize that it will not and cannot survive. It seems to me that when our look at the morning newspaper is possessed of this kernel of realization, it alone is sufficiently vital to give tremendous spiritual awareness of what is really happening. We gain new courage and strength, a new sense of values with which to understand and estimate the significance of news. The press discloses to us also the relationship between small personal actions and their consequences. We see the fallacy of human beings overestimating and underestimating other humans. The dynamics of living teach us that it is impossible for optimism alone to reform mankind, And we may know it is not possible to make truth work for man merely by the affirming of it. The universe cannot be depended upon for light unless man himself administers that light through intelligent personal action. Each of us in finality is a complex of law itself, and underneath our ego, underneath our ambitions, underneath all the petty things that make up our personal life, is this substrata of universal law within ourselves. We are the law. We are the great pattern of law within our own frail personalities. Personal action, then, is root and branch of such problems as world peace. Peace is the most desirable state for the world. The universe unquestionably desires that all its creatures abide together in a concept of peace. But beyond any doubt or question, peace is not going to come merely because we want it, nor because it is cosmically right. Peace will come ultimately, for peace is essentially right, and law will establish itself. But peace will not come as a manifesting fact in the lives of people until people themselves become vehicles and manifesting media through which peace can operate. Prayers for peace, platitudes regarding peace, and leagues for the promotion of peace will be impotent as long as there is no peace in the hearts of men. A fact is not legislated, it is established, released, and revealed. We do not publicly vote reality into manifestation. We release it into manifestation through ourselves. The good thing that we desire shall be accomplished only as we release peace through our own consciousness. Universal laws must come into manifestation naturally, like the growth of plants. They cannot be forced by the optimism of small minorities. It is the newspaper which has told us that opposed to those nations which sincerely desired peace were great structures of military ambition and ideology with no interest in peace, unless it allowed them to dominate the entire human race. Such domination is not conceivably possible in the ultimate, but it is equally obvious that weakness is not a substitute for intelligence. A weak thing, although its principles be right essentially, will not survive merely because it is established upon certain normalcy. Strength and strength alone is sufficient to assure us things we desire. When we unite a noble purpose and policy with an adequate technical strength, we can build on these ideals and make them stick, establish them on enduring foundations. On an adequate base must be built the hope for world peace. Principles have not failed merely because peace has not been achieved in this world. The failure is not in their not being strong enough, nor because right could not assert itself. The failure has been because for mankind all good things must come to man through man. It is impossible for any good to be interpolated into human life except through humanity itself. The weakness of man, not the failure of the universe, confronts us. Man in the course of time will come into his great philosophic empire, but it is a state to be brought about only through ages of study and growth. The task we immediately face is to be prepared to face and meet the great problems of life as these problems come to us in daily living. Peace will arrive in our modern world only when it is backed up with the same strength we now devote to competitive industry and political institution. When we want peace as much as we desire personal advantage, we will then have peace, not until then. World affairs, and our news interpretation of them, should be in terms of the effect of these affairs under the laws at work in nature, rather than laws merely set up abstractly in space. We forget that men are the personification of motions, of ideas, of impulses and systems of thought. A dictator is no more than the personification of the willpower that motivates most of humanity. It is the will to power in all men personified in one man that produces the chaos. The dictator is not ultimate cause. He is merely the manifestation, as reflection or pattern, of an intrinsic cause within the life of people. Definitely realizing this, we become aware of a great principle. Interpretation of the news of the world becomes interpretation of the world as news. Helpful also to viewpoint is evaluation of your reaction to news in its peculiar application to the problems of your own personal life. We are concerned frequently with such questions as, are we going to war? How soon? Such questions can be viewed either as bearing upon incidents contributing to the story of the development of the world, or as fragmentary in the development of humanity. In a large sense, they need not be important. If we are alert to the definite need for something to substitute for feelings morbid and morose after reading the morning paper, instead of taking bad news personally, we can take it philosophically. The first thing to do, it seems to me, is daily to ask ourselves, what do these things mean to me here and now in actuality? How can I use what I read, or what I hear, or what I learn to make my own life more rational, reasonable, and intelligent? Can I interpret or apply news to the enrichment of my own soul power, the creation of a greater internal capacity for truth? Consider that, philosophically speaking, each one of us is a fragment of the pattern which we call civilization. We are the units which combined together create the world. The root fabric, the basic substance, is made up of millions of living things, and the composite structure of states, nations, and empires is nothing but an aggregation of these minute separate parts. Theoretically and practically, if we put the parts in order and put each in their proper place, we have a harmonic result. As one weak thread will ultimately destroy the fabric, as one rotten apple will affect the whole barrel, one dissonant factor corrupt an institution, so each individual is a center of either constructive or destructive forces, both going on about him and emanating from himself. It is very obvious, very essential, and very evident that the first practical thing the average person can do to help his world is to get himself out of the way of progress. Let him make sure that he himself, as a living entity, is not interfering with growth. Any normal person is the center of a sphere of influence which will increase according to the development of normalcy within himself. It may be that the sphere of influence is one other person, 2 or 3 people, a dozen, a nation or a race. But no matter how few or many people are within the sphere of our individual influence, it is definite that the contributions we can make to the normalization of this world rest in our own normalcy, our own healthy attitudes, our constructiveness, our self-discipline. The building of a better world begins with the building of a better individual. Each individual can in his own right set himself to the task of accepting what he reads in his newspaper as the basis of a program of self-improvement. What is going on in the world, he can consider the content of a great textbook, one which he is going to study and from which he is going to derive his working idealism, his productive, constructive viewpoint, his new appreciation of all the values of life. In the light of a new sense of personal integrity, he can try to find the law as that law works and operates through the things that are happening in the world. Of himself, he can demand the right to participate in the reality of life, making adjustment through a positive and serious study of world conditions which surround us is a practical beginning. While such adjustment is not stupendous and startling and certainly not revolutionary, it has tremendous implication of good, a tremendous power to bring about the changes that we desire in human society. Another way to look at news is to see in it the working out in world affairs of the law of cause and effect. We can observe life as a laboratory within which a vast experimental process is taking place, learn to appreciate and understand how closely luck and merit are linked, how closely cause and effect can follow each other, and 2, how rapidly the law works, how inevitably corruption destroys itself. All this by simply sitting back and meditating upon what is occurring around us. The law is there, it is working, and we can see it. We become so agitated and so upset over the temporary that we overlook law. But the press makes us sort of demigods. We sit on high Olympus of a morning at our breakfast table, and the world is unfolding about us. Affairs, problems, and lives of innumerable people are evolving in our awareness and through our printing ink and paper. We share the experiences of people in becoming aware of some of the extraordinary complexes they take on, the perplexities with which they involve themselves, and this demands of us that we seek a philosophy big enough to find a place for the problems of all these multitudes of people. The philosophy that is big enough will give the reason for all the strange things that all human beings do. It will search out the motives and impulses that cause people to do these things. We have to understand, and we can. Out of that understanding will come soul power, the power of principle, the power of light, the power of integrity, the power to rebuild our world. To do this, we must first extricate from this mass of strange and complicated factors a hope, a fundamental hope that is not a blind optimism, not just wishful thinking, mere confusion. The need is for a substantial, intelligent hope, a hope based upon law. It is to be found in the realization that there is a plan, and that plan is working. Universal law is the one reality, the solid rock and refuge. It is that which can never fail, and that which will endure. It will bring all things finally into harmony and pattern within itself. Law is the great patterned purpose. Law makes us one with hope, and one with purpose, and one with truth. To know this law is philosophy. To love it is religion, and to practice it is science. This law is the thing that makes life worthwhile, livable, and endurable. To all of us, it is not only justifies existence, it glorifies it. It makes it just for us to suffer. It makes it noble and great for us to experience. It makes it divinely necessary for us to learn. Out of all learning, seeking, and experiencing, there is coming one thing. Someday we are going to love that law as we love nothing else in life. It is the absolute justice. It is the justice that cannot be compromised, the justice that is eternally fulfilling, the justice that is forever working things out according to adequate principles and adequate reasons, and that law is our divine foundation. It is something that exists in space. It makes space part of us. It makes us part of experience. It binds us all together in the motion of progress. It is truth coming of age in time and eternity. Wars and strife, dictators and generals, despots and tyrants come and go. They are like little motes dancing in the sunbeams. The law goes on. In the law, the great and small, the rich and poor, the powerful and humble are all parts of a plan. Law is eternally working. One of the great privileges our morning paper gives us is the chance to study news intelligently, to find their proof that the law is working. Horrible things may shock us when we first encounter them, but when analyzed dispassionately, devoutly, and insistently, they become proofs of law. Taking up our morning newspaper should be accompanied then with the resolve that we are not going to be emotionally upset by news. Calmly considering it, we are going to see in the major items the motions of innumerable forces. We do not believe men die. Nations are not swept away, nor does ideology cease. Anything that has nobility within it can never be destroyed. The universe presents eternal change, but the law goes on forever. If thousands of young men are dying, they have lived. They will live and die again. Nations that have had an existence too short for their great dreams and hopes have lived and died, but they will live again. There is no beginning nor end for human progress. Nothing that man has ever built that is good will be lost. Nothing evil that man has built is ever sustained. Beneath all changes taking place is the great permanence of law. It decrees and declares that throughout all time and eternity, all motion is toward the real. We are growing up. Nothing is happening that is not necessary to our growing up. Nothing is occurring. The only death is for those who believe in death, and even they cannot die. They only seem to die. Nothing that is real can perish, as nothing that is false can live. The great changes taking place in the world today all head toward the great reality, the reality of adequate purpose. God is in his heaven, and all is right with the world. To see right to that which is contrary to our desires and impulses is to find strength and courage in the knowledge that it must be right that men shall suffer until men learn. If in a superior universe human beings live in an inferior state and are satisfied, they must be satisfied with suffering. As long as man is less than man, he must suffer the pain of the interval between himself and the thing he was destined to be. That pain is the price of his progress. It is the force that is moving us as human beings triumphantly on to accomplishment. It is the birth pain of true power within mankind, the power of intrinsic right, the power of spirit, the power of reality within us, the power that is gradually transforming us from animals into gods. The press cavalcades before us, the great wisdom that is in the world when we realize that truth is patterned purpose eternal. We are immortal creatures, dreaming a dream of mortality, believing we live and die. We think we kill and can be killed. We hold our little viewpoints to be important, our opinions tremendous, our policies and politics cosmic. All the matters we are concerned about are of great pith and moment. In reality, we are neither persons nor are we problemed as we think we are. We are minute particles of universal law, dancing and floating in the midst of law, destined by a power beyond our control to obey the law, destined to find happiness, fulfillment, completeness, and security for ourselves and our world when we seek adjustment to the law. Trying to live the law, the newspaper can be picked up in the morning with the full realization as we read that the world is growing. If we know how to read, we will find not distress, but the proof of that growth. In the conspiracies of little men, we can see the divine conspiracies of the gods. If we know how to look through forms to fact, the fact will be seen in every news fragment. Peace. It comes to those who find reality in all that occurs, truth in all that happens, and wisdom in things as they are. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.